So we're back with David Hill. David, can you tell us about the other two apparatuses in the women's gymnastics, the beam and the floor?
Sure, Sally. We're on the beam now. The beam is 10 centimetres high, 10 centimetres wide, my apologies. It ranges from 115 to 125 centimetres off the floor depending on the level of gymnast. The matting's 20 centimetres thick, so it's nice padding. Beam's 5 metres long, and we have a landing area just like we do at vault with an extra 10 centimetre mat on there. The gymnasts are required to do a range of skills from turns to leaps and combinations of leaps joined together, and they all have varying difficulties. Also acrobatic skills, handstands, cartwheels. Some gymnasts can even get up to doing somersaults, backflips, handsprings, things like that on the beam. And then obviously they have to do a mount and a dismount. So a mount can be as simple as just climbing up on the beam with straight legs and pointed toes, of course.
Yeah, I saw a girl mount and she had legs wide up here and was holding herself. Do they have to hold themselves in that mounted position for a certain amount of time before they start the performance?
Yeah, generally most skills that need to be held have to be held for 2 seconds or a fraction longer to satisfy the requirements for the judges. So the mounts can be as simple as just climbing on to doing something more fancy, and then the dismounts range a range of somersaults and twisting type dismount.
And so it would take a lot of core strength and upper body strength to do some of these moves on the beam. Is it a progression to get to where they need to be at the elite level?
Yeah, as they move up to the higher levels, the routines can be structured to suit the strengths of each gymnast. So a gymnast that has perhaps good upper body strength might do more skills that involve handstands and some of the more difficult skills that incorporate weight on their hands. Perhaps gymnasts who are more powerful in their legs might do more skills that involve somersaulting and doing skills that jump and require a lot of jumping power on the beam. So big leaps, somersault skills, obviously big dismounts.
This is the final apparatus, the floor exercise. David, it looks to me as though it's quite a simple apparatus. Is that true?
The floor's got a little bit more to it than what you see on the surface. The floor's actually made up of boards, quite hard, strong boards, and then they have either foam blocks or springs that will actually create the bounciness that the gymnasts get when you see them doing their tumbles on the floor. It then has some quite resilient foam on the top with a nice carpet layer on the top, which allows the kids to turn and jump and leap and roll around on it without being too uncomfortable. And obviously the sorts of things that they need to do on the floor, because they don't compete in and they don't train in shoes or runners, so the floor has to have that resilience. So, for example, when you look at a floor routine, you might see the gymnasts start with a little bit of choreography, a little bit of dance, a few little poses, then they'll generally tumble, do a round off and a back flip and then back somersaults, those sorts of combinations of skills on a diagonal across the floor. They'll then go into some perhaps turns, which are requirements of their floor routine, some combinations of leaps, which are also requirements. They then might go into another corner of the floor and then do another tumbling line, maybe some front somersaults this time. They can do them in a tuck position or a straight body position, and that all gives them different difficulty values. And then some gymnasts, if they're strong enough, can actually then do maybe a third tumbling line as well with maybe some other dance and choreography. So and we want to see different heights. We want to see them close to the floor. We want to see them standing up tall. We want to see different combinations of skills to create a really nice, exciting routine.
I've noticed that the music that's being played doesn't have lyrics. Is there a rule on no lyrics, or how does that work?
There is a rule. Prior to the last Olympics, there was no voice allowed in the music at all. Now they've eased that rule off a little bit, and the gymnasts can have voice but no words in the music.
So is there a reason that there's not allowed the words? Was it distracting, or has it just always been the rule?
Well, as long as I can remember, and sort of 20 plus years in gymnastics, that's always been the rule. I think it's probably got something to do with they don't want people using just stuff off the radio, you know, so I think that it makes it a bit nicer if the music's made specifically for the gymnastics routine.
So do the gymnasts all have to use the same music for different levels, or is it just choose whatever you want?
No, it's an optional choice. Again, years ago they had compulsory routines where the gymnasts had, at a particular level, had to all do the same routine to the same music. Now there's no such thing as compulsory routines anymore, so the gymnasts can choose their music. Sometimes the coach might have some input into that because they might choose a piece that's perhaps not appropriate to suit their physical abilities and so forth. So.
Perfect. Well, thanks for talking with us today.
No worries, my pleasure.
Up next, we'll be talking with Ade Foster on busting some of those myths about gymnastics. And later on, we'll see some of the interviews and highlights of today's winners.